Welcome to the Voice of the Agent 2025. We are Unchained's annual survey of over 1,000 agents when we ask them all questions about the market, sales, lettings, and so much more. I'm delighted to be joined on this panel today by Megan 18, Head of Development at Home Finders and President-elect of Arla, by Chris England, Founder and Director of PVS Media. Standing in at last minute, Christopher Watkin, the man behind all the stats in our industry. Kirsty Franks, Founder and Director of Frank Marketing Agency and Group Marketing Director of the Property Franchise Group. And last but no means least, how he wants to be introduced, Toby Martin, Chief Chimp at Toby Martin Consultancy and Training. So, we're going to talk today about sales, lettings and marketing. I actually asked an audience of ours on LinkedIn if they had any questions. So I'm actually going to start with probably the most provocative of those questions, which is, should panels claiming and discussing a estate agency as our industry, and there were bunny ears in it, actually have better representation from those working in it rather than the constant churn of suppliers selling to it? Let me throw that to Toby.
Well, first of all, I would hate to drill into whether the person who asked that question has a service that they also sell to agents. But that aside, I think obviously it's fantastic to be here today and to get to discuss these topics. And really, all you can do is put together the heavyweight members of the industry that are here. We have agent representation, we have supplier representation, we have marketing representation. I don't think you could ask for anything more than this.
Mr. Watkin, you're selling your services to the agent, to the industry.
That's the job I'm in, but at the end of the day, I think it comes down to is we are commenting on the market. We don't have to be in the market. You know, the best football managers not necessarily are the best footballers.
100%. Kirsty?
Yeah, I think, we're going to cover a whole host of topics today, and there's, more coming out in terms of the voice of the agent later this year. Today, we're talking about the market, which I think we've got the right representation for, but we're also delving into marketing, which, let's face it, we know a thing or two about.
And all of us are talking to not just one agent, but many agents. So we're sucking all the ideas up and then distilling it and pushing it out.
And I'd just like to say as well is we actually have the voice of 1,000+ agents on the table in front of us. So actually what we've got here is 1,000 agents sharing their views, and we're now going to discuss what they've said and how we feel about that. And there's going to be many more videos in this series. So my first question, and it's something we start the report with, and we've been tracking confidence in the market for quite a while, since 2017. We obviously all the house price indexes, the Rightmove, the Zooplers, the Nationwides, the Halifaxes, but we measure how people feel about how the property market is going. And we use the work from YouGov where they ask if you expect house prices to be higher or lower and create a score out of it. What we've seen is a remarkable increase in confidence for next year. So to you, Chris, given that confidence among home movers consistently surpasses the general population, how could agents leverage this optimism to instill broader confidence in the market, especially with lots of reactions going about the economy at the moment?
Well, if you think about it, sentiment is by its very nature not particularly objective but subjective. I find it fascinating that the British, and in respect also estate agents, judge how well the property market is doing by house prices, when in reality house prices really aren't a great measure to measure what's happening in the property market or whether it's going good or not. Most people move up market, so if yours has gone up 50 grand, the one you want to buy has probably gone up 100 grand, so the gap's got bigger. What should agents be doing? It's a very fine line. Sales in January are just under 20% up on what they were in 2024, and sales were in 2024 were up around 20% more than what they were in 23. But at the same time, what we've got to do is it's a fine balance, because remember, only 53% of homes that come on the market actually sell. So if we're too optimistic, we're putting houses on the market with vendors that have got pie in the sky, kite flying prices, and we don't sell. So then that brings things down. So I think agents need to talk about the property market, be fair, be optimistic, but without being silly.
And for those who've either been in the market or still on the market, so to you, Megan, first, are you hearing noises of confidence reflected by the research?
I think that what we've seen in this year certainly is a record-breaking January, and I think that covers sales and lettings across. I don't know how you guys are feeling with the brands you're working with, but certainly in the area I work in, what issue it is. But what I am seeing is the closer you're getting to London, when I speak to colleagues in the industry, they're the ones that seem to be a little bit more of a struggle, I think, and maybe that's just the people I've spoken with, but I wonder if perhaps that's a sign that perhaps that kind of prime market, that more expensive cost of living, is actually pushing people a bit further out of the big cities and into places that are a little bit cheaper.
So I don't know who would like to take this one, but in the research we actually asked about the budget in October. And what we found was that 40% of agents think the October budget was a step in the wrong direction, but it wasn't overwhelming. 31% thought it was a step in the right direction. Who would like to take the political question?
I think a lot of people, and a lot of people certainly I speak to in agency across the board, are sort of sick of the politics of it. And actually a lot of people are starting to just do what they want. Certainly the confidence in, in terms of our business, what we've seen in terms of interest in forging business forward and moving things forward over the next 12 to 18 months, is that people are actually backing their own businesses. They're almost ignoring the noise. There are so many things in the geopolitical landscape going on, not just in the UK, but broader. And I think that realistically, if you look at things that are happening in America, things that are happening as a result of the presidential election, things that are happening, in terms of the European Union, Ukraine, you've still got all these things running on. And I think in reality, a lot of people just want to get back to business.
Yeah, and I think as well, you've got to think about your circle of influence. We can't control what's happening in the economy, but we can control how we're responding and reacting to it, making sure that we're really clear on our proposition, making sure that we've got marketing that's delivering exceptional lead volumes, making sure that we convert quicker than the competition so that our business is running efficiently. And making the most of the opportunities. Megan, we've seen the same within TPFG. Record month in January in terms of lead volume coming in and then conversions. So, the opportunities there. It's how you make the most of it.
I think in terms of the actual budget itself, I think the vote split in the Voice of the Agent report is quite indicative of the fact that we are flapping slightly on that subject. 40% think it was wrong, 31% think it was right. We don't really know. Economically, we know we're in a time of turmoil. We don't have clear answers. We know that the most recent budget, it was frustrating in areas, but there's no clear solution to it. Yes, we would have liked to see more incentives to encourage investment in the private rented sector. We might wanted to have seen more stamp duty incentives, but ultimately, actually, the vote on that is quite split. It's not a clear indication. So I think what we need to do is we need to put that to one side, deal with what is in front of us, make sure we have a strong, clear offering to our consumers and that we can succeed in the environment we find ourselves in.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And obviously we're going to get into this much more in July when we actually do the politics part of the Voice of the Agent survey. And we'll actually get the anniversary of 1 year of a new government and a good number of months into the new American presidency. So drilling now more into sales specifically, we saw 3/4 of agents reporting an increase in vendor numbers in 2024, but big challenges like vendor acquisition and time management persist. Megan, what kind of innovative strategies could the industry adopt to secure and retain vendors while managing their operational efficiency?
For me, one of the biggest issues that we find is we sit on the sofa of somebody's house and we pitch to them the same pitch that we gave 5 times that week. Actually, we're better than that. This is a partnership. We need them to put as much effort into this as we're going to put into it. So my suggestion would be, in terms of making sure that you are protecting yourself financially as well, is actually ask for an upfront marketing cost. Now, what that will actually do is show you, it's going to show you, are these guys actually serious? Do they want to sell their house? Because if they're going, I'm not willing to put X amount in the pot, they're probably not. But what that creates is a working business relationship, not a, oh, she's no sell, no fee. Oh, I might as well give it a go. I'll drum her down till she's getting too cheap. It's about making sure that we are, fully encapsulating that whole relationship. So that would be my idea.
Brilliant. Christopher?
There are a number of agents using a blended fee option at the moment where you give them the homeowner an iPad and then they can basically decide what fee they want. So for every £1 they pay up front, they lose £2 off the sale fee at the end. And the results that I'm seeing are truly exceptional. So that actually matches what Megan's saying.
So this lends nicely into actually a question we actually had from the LinkedIn audience, which is, why has a estate agent in England and Wales settled on circa 1% being the appropriate fee? Is this a sustainable model to deliver a professional service? Kirsty?
Yeah, I think the evidence has proved that it's becoming unsustainable. And, I agree with everything that the panel have just talked about in terms of making what we do as estate agents much more valuable, and we are undervaluing ourselves.
Chris?
I think it's because estate agents are afraid to lose the listing.
Expand on that.
I personally believe estate agents don't care whether they sell the house or not. I'm talking about employed agents here, not self-employed. The magic thing is this: we're so afraid to lose the listing that we will do anything in our power to get it, and we are just dropping our pants getting any listing at any price, any asking price. How can a business sustain itself when we only sell half of the houses we put on the market? I think estate agents need to learn to love, to embrace, to losing the listing, and if you do lose it, make sure you have a nurture system that gets them back, not give me a call, because they'll never ring you back, because no one wants to ring back an agent saying you were right and I was wrong.
Yeah.
Toby?
The higher the property price, the prime market, we're actually achieving higher fees on the more expensive properties. And going back to that idea of bespoke marketing, of course, we're going to approach a prime property in a different way to a more affordable home. It's going to be marketed differently. You're going to do a different kind of sales pitch to that client, to that vendor. And so it shows that when you approach a vendor agent relationship in a premium way, you can also charge for that because you're proving your worth and value to the client.
We kind of know this as an industry. Fee increases, you've got property value, but that's a higher percentage of a higher value property. The percentages should be the same regardless of property in reality, because yes, you get less money in real terms from a lower value house, but it's the same percentage.
There's also a piece around being really, really clear and putting the time into the thinking around the proposition up front and not having a scattergun approach to all of your customers. Who are you talking to? Who are your different customer types? What is the messaging and proposition for each of the different customer types you've got? Then use tech as much as possible to do the heavy lifting, the personalization, the bespoke marketing, which frees up the time to really build the relationships. And that's where the value comes in, with the relationships we can do when the tech's done the work of selling in the first place.
So final comment from each of you, and it is a how long is a piece of string? If there was an optimal fee in this country, recognising there's 5%, 6%, 7% in other countries in very different industry models, so we can't directly compare, what is a fair fee for an agent in the United Kingdom? Toby?
The sentiment here is that your average fee here of 1.18% does feel extremely good value, and that we should value our own services more highly than that.
Kirsty?
My view is do your research on your own market, and if you're going higher than what the average is in your local market, make sure your proposition can back that up.
I'm going to struggle to get an answer. Christopher?
It's irrelevant what the number is. It's what the punter thinks it's worth paying for.
Told you. Chris?
I think it depends wildly on demographic. It depends wildly on geographical location. Some people will disagree and say you can get 2% anywhere, but we work with agents in some lower tariff parts of the country where property prices are lower, but the way that they market their property, the way that they have built their business, they are the most expensive agent and they're being successful, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a 2% agent.
Brilliant. Megan, you started this section.
Sorry about that. I think that if you go back to sort of 2008, we were closer to the 2% mark, and it felt like an industry that we were able to work in. People made a good living out of. I think if we could aim to get back to that place, that would be optimal. I think being more realistic, I probably think 1.5% is there. I think it does really genuinely compare on what brand you're offering, what you're offering, but ultimately it doesn't matter what the fee is. If you don't believe in that, what you are offering, the fees are absolutely irrelevant, because you could think you're the best thing ever, but if you aren't offering it, you ain't getting 0.5%, let alone 2%.